Are you losing money in unfinished tasks? Could you and your team benefit from a significant increase in productivity? Oh, yeah, I'm hearing it right now. Our guest has the best tips, tools, and resources to help you, your team, and your business achieve peak performance. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wise Up Wednesday on the Startup Life Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, startup coach to first-time founders. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now help newly minted business owners raise their businesses and sleep through the night. That's right, using my Andelicious strategies, solutions, insights, and inspiration. These founders are building profitable and sustainable businesses without spending a fortune or wasting valuable time. And I am delighted you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game because, as you know, as we founders do better, our businesses do better. And we are streaming live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, thanks to the oh-so-delicious StreamYard platform. Be sure to send me a wave in the comment sections. And for those of you tuning in live, please use this opportunity to expand your network. After all, this is an online networking event. So connect with each other on LinkedIn and follow each other on social media. You never know where the next collaboration will come from. And your questions and comments are really important. So please pop them into the comment threads during our conversation, and we'll do our best to answer them live. And if you know someone who would be, benefit and find our conversation valuable, tag them. Do the old @Jane, John, come join us. That would be wonderful. I'm so excited to share today's guest with you. Now, this is a special person in our Boston community. His name is AK Ikwuakor, known as Coach AK, and he's a serial entrepreneur, a former professional athlete, speaker, and executive coach. He is the founder of MobileXA, which is an accountability and business coaching platform to help manage early-stage entrepreneurs and their teams to significantly increase their productivity and find lost revenue in their unfinished task lists. I can't wait to hear more about this business. In addition to being a former top 10 world-ranked athlete and global speaker, AK has collaborated or worked with companies such as Google, Raymond James, Duke Basketball, NYU, the State Department we work, and many others. I am so delighted to introduce you to this extraordinary, and I'm going to call him unorthodox entrepreneur because that's what he says about himself. Let's give a round of applause and a hearty welcome to Coach AK.
Thank you, Ande. Thank you. I'm gonna add one more to that list.
Okay, please.
I'm also a father. And I have a little girl. Her name is Haven, like safe haven. And the reason I mention that, especially as entrepreneurs, is during this COVID world, she often likes to drop in when I'm on calls.
Say hello.
Yay! Let everybody wave as she comes onto the call, potentially, not intentionally, but when the camera's on, she comes a walk in. So.
Yes, unorthodox is good. Vicki O'Neill, Vicki O'Neill, incredible marketing goddess B2B, just sharing. And a favorite locally, right? So I love to have folks learn more about my guests because, we're going to get into some really wonderful tactics and strategies to help founders, especially those first-time founders, get their sea legs and increase their productivity and peak performance. But let's chat a little bit about you and your extraordinary background and what called you to become an entrepreneur. Because, I get that from early on as an athlete, you had to be self-motivated, self-driven. So you had some really great habits that you installed in yourself. Share with folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I guess I came into this world in a team. I got a twin brother and a twin sister. So we've always been fighting back and forth, and I'm the youngest.
Triplets?
Oh yeah, I'm a triplet. I got a twin brother and a sister. I'm the smallest too. I'm 6'3", 225 pounds, like a linebacker size, or a little bit linebacker size, and I'm the smallest in my family. So we're all very a little bit rambunctious. But, for me, in terms of this overall entrepreneurship endeavor, really didn't come in a business sense. I would say I was a college athlete. I ran track and field at the University of Oregon. And my senior year, I decided to run track and field, play football. And I ended up tearing my ACL. And if you know me, I've been playing sports my whole entire life. And when I tore my ACL, I just hated sports. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I ended up gaining like 40 pounds, not in a healthy way. And I was just fed up. And I actually went over to Rarotonga and after graduation for just a little postgraduate vacation. And I met up with this guy named Pete. And Pete and I were having a conversation, and he says, have you kind of thought about maybe training for the Olympics? And I looked at it.
As one does when they're hanging out in a conversation. Hey, Vicky or Nikki, have you thought about training for the Olympics?
It was a random, he knew my story, and the conversation really stuck with me. And that led into me ended up like losing the 40 pounds and beginning to start training. Now, the reason I say that was my first entrepreneurship journey was because that was the moment that I said I wanted to change the path that I was on and start living the life that I chose to live, because the path that I was going on, I didn't like. So, for example, my twin brother, he's an actor in Hollywood. He picked up all of the stuff that he had and moved to LA. No, he didn't start a business, but he is living his life by his own lifestyle design. And that's really what I count as entrepreneurship. How can you create something from an idea, from a thought, from a vision that you have, and make that into your own path that you want to lead?
Right, and tap into self-directed. Exactly. So often we've been told from day one, here, go here, do this, do that, get this grade, take this test, get this paycheck. When you're setting out on a dream, it has to come from in here.
Exactly.
So how did you make that happen? And what did you find out there?
Yeah, well, when I did the, track and field, that process, it went. I ended up, originally qualifying for the Olympic Games. And then through a little situation of drinking some bad water overseas, I ended up watching the Olympic Games from home that year. That was the Beijing Olympics. But to me, that kind of started the domino effect to where I am today. And my first company was actually called Empower to Play. We did sports diplomacy with the US government using unfamiliar sports. We did work in Haiti, and we did work in the Philippines. And
wow. And sports diplomacy, that makes so much sense, because when you give people a number and put them on a team, they're no longer a country or a person. They've got a role to play, right, on that team. And then you get rid of that individualism.
Yeah, you understand, especially with our model, is we worked mainly with youth. And we used an unfamiliar sport and brought that into the community. And the funny thing is, when you bring people together to plan, we were planning these sports camps. And when you bring people together side by side, meaning nothing we brought into the community, all we brought actually was just footballs. We brought maybe just some t-shirts, but everything else had to come within the communities in which we served. But working hand in hand with people, we realized that we had much more in common than that separates us. And it was through the power of sports that really broke down all of these barriers. Something that I think in today's world right now, we need more than ever. How can we break down these barriers and not just put ourselves into these individual boxes?
Absolutely. And there's nothing like doing a team sport to erase anything other than, hey, are you going to be there when you need to be? You're not going to pass the ball. Or you're going to stop that person or whatever. You lose that and you care what they're doing there. And then, of course, and this is what our military folk miss the most when they come home, is that I've got your back. Exactly. Because that gel that happens. So I love that. And, every experience you're having adds to this lived experience that folks watching, you're going to hear some amazing advice from Coach AK, because he has built up this repertoire of understanding humanity and all its frailties and all of the gold that you can find in being human. Exactly. So you did this wonderful work for a while. Then what happened?
Oh, yeah. I think most people would say, I talk a lot about lifestyle design. And, when I was doing Empower to Play, this moment happened. And I talk about this philosophy that I really, really believe a lot in, and it's called unbranded. And, with this particular event that was happening in 2016, I thought my whole life was going to change. I was going to win this ESPY because I was going to help build relationships between the United States and Haiti. And I remember it was like a week before, this event was about to go off, where the U.S. ambassador was coming, or all these media was coming. And during preparation, we were going through situations, very, very easy. Things were working very, very well. Just like an entrepreneur, the best stuff is working. But what ended up happening was, for example, everybody spoke English in preparation, but when we got on the ground, everybody spoke French. I don't speak a lick of French. We had a lot of sponsors that were going to come on board, and they came on board, but when it was time for them to deliver, they weren't able to deliver. And then it came to the night before the event. And I get this phone call from one of the members on the ground, and they said, we need to come up with a whole bunch of money by tomorrow, or this is going to be the safety of your team getting out of the country. And at this moment, a realization came to me. Oh, I don't know if I told you that. I just kind of said that just so randomly. But, looking at my team as they were sleeping, at that moment, I got a FaceTime call from my little girl, Haven. She's like 3 at the time, and she was super excited. She was like, Daddy, guess what? I was like, what? Because this is really my rock bottom moment. And she said, I drew you a picture. And the picture was me and her holding hands. And it was like, at that moment, I realized she didn't care at all about this initiative. She didn't care all about sports. All she cared about was Daddy. And it was at that moment that I said I was no longer going to be putting myself into these boxes. And I realized I'm more than just an entrepreneur. I'm more than just a speaker, but I'm also a father that decides to live his lifestyle design based on what makes him happy. Because we know one thing is that tomorrow is not guaranteed. That's
right. And unbranded in a world where it's all about the brand. It's kind of like your unbranded is a brand now, Coach AK. But what he's saying is so important, folks. And we can get tunnel vision big time as an entrepreneur. And we can say to people, hey, if you're not part of the solution, get out of the way. But it is those beloveds in our life that love us no matter what happens, that help us be grounded in as to why we're doing our work. And I think that, leads us to a really great point in how to, as a first-time founder, be self-aware and not buy into the mythologies, Coach AK, that are out there, but to also understand how to find and tap into resources and tools and advice so that you can bring your best forward. And as you just saw, viewers, with AK's story, everything was falling apart. And, had it many times happen. Many founders have had this happen where it all falls apart. But it added so much depth into his understanding, not only of himself, but how he wanted to be in the world, and how we be in the world often can shift as well. So, the go-getter that I was for so many decades, now it's like, I want to serve the world, but I want to do it in more of a flow. And wherever I glow. And so, but, other folks are, really focused on scaling and creating, and they're called. I mean, they're really pulled and pushed and on purpose to really build a globally scaled business. But you got to know that about yourself before you start out and just think, oh, I'm going to have an IPO. Really? Are you cut out for that? You could reach a certain number in revenue and go, I'm miserable. I was so much happier at $80K a year, but everybody tells me I've got to have 6-7 figures for my business. Who says, right? So AK, so then you evolved. I mean, you came back, you dabbled some more in some amazing work as a founder with, teammates and et cetera. But what happened that shifted you to launch this new business? And folks, AK is launched, and we've got to cheer. We always have to cheer and celebrate each other, right? So we definitely want to celebrate this brand new business that AK has started. Coach AK, And but what called you to want to help folks, especially founders, find deeper awareness through lifestyle design, but also figure out what was holding them back from being productive, et cetera? What and how did you come up with the name MobileXA? So many questions. I know, a curious mind I had.
And there's so much things like I obviously want to make this session as beneficial, for everyone. But I think also one of the most important part is the entrepreneurship journey as well, is understanding you're not crazy if you think this or this experience happens. But you all know, I had a previous company. I was doing elite styles, and it was a clothing company for athletes, and it's still around. But to be honest, I was miserable. And I was miserable in a few different ways. I was miserable, one, because there are a few things that I had control over, meaning I could have amazing customer service, but I had no control over what happened on the supplier side, or even when clients received their orders. But I realized that every single day I was doing something that I didn't enjoy, even though people said, keep on doing it, but it wasn't part of my lifestyle design. I didn't feel as though the impact I was making that fit within my core was aligning. I would go to bed at night feeling relatively empty. And then obviously what happened is something called COVID hit. And I was actually doing some work with Google. I do some work in China. I do a lot of different projects outside of MobileXA. But I realized when this company started, the first employee or the first customer was myself. Because I was not productive. I was depressed. I was having a very difficult time. And I went through some other accountability programs that kind of helped, but they didn't. I'm going to talk more about that as well. But there were certain things that were happening, for example. And with the process with MobileXA is we are accountability and business coaches to entrepreneurs. And I know the entrepreneur lifestyle is super sexy, but sometimes we have to be honest, we need to be managed. And the reason why is because we kind of fuel the fire to our own overwhelm and stress. So, for example, I'm going to bring Ande into the conversation and ask her some questions. So, for example, do you own an iPhone or a smartphone?
A smartphone, I do.
Okay. At any moment, have you ever been annoyed because of cell phone coverage a little bit shoddy, not working as well?
Of course.
Okay. Have you ever had a situation where you ordered maybe like an Uber and it was just taking a little bit too long?
Say that one more time. It's taking.
Maybe ordered an Uber and it was just taking too long,
Yeah, that doesn't upset me as much, but I hear you.
Right. So the reason why I'm going to talk about why this is important is because, where business is going, it needs to be fast, amazing customer service, very reliable, and relationship management, amazing reviews, right? But if you're a startup founder, you're still competing with those Fortune 500 companies that have a humongous team. And we don't realize that the same stuff that we're demanding when we're just looking through a Facebook feed or whatever, and we're just scrolling past other companies that are putting a lot of work into it, we realize we're putting ourselves into that same situation. So we're fueling the same frustration.
Right.
Things need to be fast, but now when we start our business, we have to do the same as well, but we're only one person. And during this time, we haven't grown another head. We haven't been able to clone ourselves. I'm relatively the same person I was 3 years ago, but the demands have changed. And so one of the things that I would recommend is the solo entrepreneur is cool, but as soon as you can find anybody to help you, right? Even if it's outsourcing some talent, just something that can help you relieve some of that stress and some of that overwhelm, even if it's just an executive assistant 5 hours a week, right? Off Udemy, just something that can allow people to say, that can really help them as they're moving forward.
I'm just going to bring one person who supports me right now. Nikki Pasquier, she lives in the UK, in England, in the Cotswolds, and I couldn't do what I do without her. You're absolutely right. And I think shifting into solopreneurship was one of the hardest things for me to do. I'd always had a team. I always had a company, whether it's manufacturing or .com or whatever. I always had people.
Yeah.
And so that was a really tough thing for me to realize. And then, I had Natalia. She is just graduated from the Hult School of business. And she was a wonderful intern and came on board and helped make my life a lot easier. So that's great. And then I love turning to this phenomenon, which you saw earlier with Vicky, for her advice. So sometimes your team might be virtual and they may not be on the payroll, but they're people who are helping you do better and people you can maybe hand assignments to so that they can. And let me just say a quick hello to Mia Voss. She's a phenomenal woman. She is a leader in live streaming, especially hashtag live streaming for women, AK. And, from 2013. She's been rocking it and showing how it's done and showing up consistently. She's phenomenal. And we know who this is. AK.
Hey, what's up?
AJ. I'm so concerned I'm going to call AK AJ. But Andy Jack is my co-host, everybody, of the monthly pitch event that I hold. And then here's Diane from Seattle. Saying hi. And we can say hi to your daughter.
Yeah, she's right here. She came in. She wanted to make an.
Everybody wave hi. Come on, put your hands together in the comment section. Hi.
I'm getting him candy.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
She wanted to bring me something to drink and eat. She's very, very, there's another assistant of mine that's helping move things forward.
Oh, okay, everybody. That was an adorable moment. And that's the beauty of being live, and that's the beauty. And it ties right into your lifestyle design.
Exactly.
For business. I know. And say yes, Mia. And say yes to candy. But, what you were saying, too, is that the expectations we set for ourselves as founders can be unrealistic. I know for me, just the artwork alone, I see the polished marketing collateral. And of course, there's the old hashtag, why bother? But again, they have a whole team and and they're still making mistakes.
Right.
So, for us, we have to know where our core strengths are, what we're going to focus on, and really find out, what are our weaknesses and what are those holes that we fill. So as you launch this new business, let me just bring it back up again so we can all take a quick look at it. With the MobileXA, what was it that you wanted to bring to the world that really floated your boat and allowed you to be more of who you are?
Yeah, so MobileXA started because I wanted to help early stage entrepreneurs be more productive in this very competitive space. But I also focus a lot on finding balance in a holistic approach. And we've developed a really a 12-step system because I think for everyone, they're asking, what's that one silver bullet that I can do to get my business, myself, whatever I need to that next level? And there's actually 12 things that we developed in terms of really putting that together. So as we know, right now, in terms of one of the things about being productive is procrastination. And roughly 76% of entrepreneurs would stated that they procrastinate between 1 to 4 hours a day. And some of that, even 59% of that, has led to financial challenges due to not being able to take action, or this is very important, or taking action in things that they know that actually isn't serving them. So procrastination just isn't about.
It reminds me of when I hop on Pinterest.
Exactly.
And then 2 hours later, it's what? How did this happen? I have to set a timer, everybody, for me when I'm going on Pinterest because I have too much on. There's a recipe I must try. There's an inspirational quote that's really floating my boat.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think that's really important, especially where I'm at right now, right? Yeah. Because in the COVID world, we've realized that the entrepreneur, the business person, the person that works in your company has multiple different parts to their lives. They're not just focusing on potential distractions of Facebook or the internet, but family responsibilities, hobbies, activities that they all now need to navigate still in this world. And oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, what we do is we might have, like I talk about the Pareto's principle, the high impact tasks. So what we do is we help entrepreneurs identify the 3 high impact tasks that they can complete each day to really maximize their productivity. Now, with most entrepreneurs, what they'll do is once they get those 3 done, what will they do? They'll go to the 4th, 5th, and 6th task, right? What then ends up to feeling burnt out. Rather,
Or they go for ice cream.
right? Or they go for those things that end up bleeding into the next day, right? So we help them identify those high impact tasks, because when you talk to entrepreneurs, like, I got so much to do in so little time with not enough resources. But when you help them identify what those 3 high impact tasks, the ones that are going to get themselves up to the next stage, it allows them, when they're finished throughout the day, to actually relax and to breathe and to focus on those other areas in their lives.
Okay, so you got to be feeling the high five with me, everybody. Give me a thumbs up, a fist bump in the comment section. You know that you've had that happen, and you're on a roll. You're like, oh, I'm feeling good. I can pump out, even more. That's got to be really hard to find out, not just those high impact tasks, but given the limited resources, how do you say no to continuing, or yes to stopping the day?
Exactly. So we always think about what it's saying no, but in reality, when we're saying no, we're actually saying yes to something. When I'm saying no to, I'm going to say no to stop doing that task, I'm saying yes to maybe spending more time with my family, right? So learning no is actually learning to say yes to the things that are more higher priority within your life. But one of the things we also know that the studies show that having a time base to your tasks or deadlines increases the chance of it getting completed. Now, for me, I was tried out some other accountability programs, when the challenge is that their deliverables were every week, right? So what would happen Monday through Friday?
Right.
I was procrastinating. I'll be honest. But what happened was, on that Saturday and Sunday, when the deadline came, that's when I was working.
Yeah.
So with MobileXA, we do ours by 11:59 every single night. You need to get it completed. And what's that causing? It's actually changing the micro decisions that you're changing throughout the day, right? See, procrastination doesn't start in those big decisions. It starts in those micro decisions throughout the day. Should I check this YouTube article link, or should I get this task done? Right? It's those small micro decisions that are affecting the big. So when I'm actually not doing time-based at the end of every single night, it is actually changing the habits within my system to actually create a completely different person that's just more productive. And so I always thought that when you create an accountability partner as a friend that was beneficial, I mean, it is, but the other challenges are, especially as business owners, and we're going to talk about this more though, is we also have an incentive, financial incentives, meaning for every task that you do not complete, you pay $5. Now, the studies show that once you actually include money into the factor, it actually increases or activates the reward centers in your brain. That causes you to actually, if you lose the money, what do you want to do? You want to make up that money. But we also offer positive reinforcement. When you are productive, we also provide bonuses. So for us, if we always want to think of our friend as an accountability partner in the business, it's good. But we know that what's going to help us grow and scale and live the life that we want is making sure that we have revenue. So when you do lose that potential $5, it now activates you to say, how can I now make that back to actually be able to do the things that I need to do and stop the potential procrastinating tasks?
Right.
More research, or that could be, well, let me just type this up. This email looks good. But the easier, the faster you send that out, the faster those tasks or that money in those tasks will actually come back into your bank account.
Oh my gosh. So you're working the brain. So, and that whole, the secret reward system, the secret habit changing system. Mm-hmm. I'm still stuck on the first one about ending the day and not feeling guilty.
Well, when you know that you are completing your high impact tasks.
Yes. So
right?
There's that.
And it's accountable. I'm going to tell you this. I was a former professional athlete. And as a coach and an athlete, we know that when you work hard and you're laying on the ground in pain, you are happy at the end of the day to say, let me recover. And the reason why is when you're getting those 3 impact tasks, it's actually challenging. It isn't easy. People think that, oh, it's just easy. No, when I first started, it was challenging. It was challenging to be productive, to hit those 3 impact tasks, because When 11:59 came out, those excuses were no longer, because our accountability coaches don't really care about your excuses. Like our friends, it's like, okay, it's 11:59. Did you get it done? So whether it's 11:50, those 8 minutes, I'm making sure those get completed. But it's really attacking the mind, the mindset, and really almost feeling like chiseling away all of these bad habits that I have, that as I begin to develop, it's actually the compound effect. That's why we talk about the 10X, is because it's the consistency and the compound effect that gets the result.
Well, and also let's just say hi to Muhammad. Thank you. It is a phenomenal concept. I agree 100%. It's also reframing, because we come in with an idea of how we're going to be as a founder with no experience, especially first-time founders. You're coming as an employee, and all of a sudden now you're a founder and a business owner, yet you're still probably looking for the same reward systems and that you would get as an employee. This ability to reframe, and I'm a huge fan of having a third party help you reframe. Friends for accountability, I am not a fan of that. And I think you just need that unbiased person who is a professional, who can help you get to that productivity. And I put into the comment section Coach AK's comment here: at the end of the day, let me recover. Okay, I would never have said that to myself, but of course, an athlete you would, because you've really been pushing it. Well, we have been pushing it too as founders.
Well, there's also a term, we know about this in sports, it's called supercompensation. Now, supercompensation is a term that we actually use in planning out our training programs. We actually infuse rest and recovery, because if you continue to push and you continue to push and you continue to push in sports, you get injured.
Yeah.
Within entrepreneurship, that injury is broken relationships. That's burnout.
Yeah.
So by actually we infuse recovery within this program to make sure every day you are focusing on recovery. And you're also focusing on those other areas of balance outside of your life, because you don't want to be successful in your business and you go home and it's causing you to have difficult relationships with your partners and your loved ones, because that's really at the most why you started it to begin with.
That's right. And you started to feel fulfilled, not overwhelmed. And you really brought up another really valuable point, which is, the balance of the day. There's a mythology out there, and there is certainly a glamorization of being busy, and that, I'm doing it 24/7. When I had my .com business, back in 1998, 99, 2000, I was interviewed by Wired magazine. And I'd been studying the culture at all these other .coms. And I said to them, look, this is not family friendly at all. This is a culture that was started by young men who were totally into sleeping on the couch at the office and getting up at 2 a.m. and taking another cat nap and getting up and crunch. And all of a sudden that was glorified as a way of being. No, I disagreed 100%, and I knew it didn't have a chance of making it. So how do you help people let go of that perception? It's what we see everywhere, the glorification of working 24/7 and doing that rise and grind and all of that to make your business work.
I, for a while, believed that was the way to go. And, I believed a lot in that, because you have to work. But I'll tell you, I've seen so much more progress when I don't do that, because my mind is not from this flight or flight type mode of always being stressed out. I'm actually able to think more creatively. And we already know there's studies that show, like I said beforehand, 76% of entrepreneurs are procrastinating 1 to 4 hours per day. So yes, you're working 24 hours per day, but how much of those are actually productive hours, right? What I've seen for most times, they get stressed out, and later on the night, or they have their particular witching hours when they're working, and those middle hours are just rolling around in circles. It may not even be focusing on their high impact tasks. Might just be mundane tasks. That's really not helping their business move forward at all.
Yeah, and one of our favorites, many of us know Brian Fanzo. What I love about Brian is he says, you know what? I know my productive hours. So at 2 p.m, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hang out and chill and do whatever, watch sports, play with my kids from 2 to about 4 or 5. And then I get a second wind. and I have another nice little chunk of productivity. And that's great in the evening hours. Maybe it's because he's a dad of 3 girls.
Yeah, one, it's a lot of fun.
But, I think that's so important. And, there's that funny meme from the British show on PBS. I can't remember the name of it right now, but where the matriarch is like, weekend? What is a weekend? But for me, I don't like to get locked in, AK, into I'm supposed to work from Monday through Friday. I kind of like taking Tuesday afternoons off.
Exactly.
Or Thursday having a light day. And I like to really jam on Saturday because it's uninterrupted and get all sorts of stuff done so that, boom, Sunday feels great. And Monday, getting into the week, I feel so prepared. What are your thoughts about how founders can get stuck, again, in that employee mindset where we think it has to be between 9 and 5, 8 and 6, whatever your shift was? What can they do for that?
Well, one of the things that I really realized is as founders, especially at the start, your company will only grow as much as you do. If you're putting yourselves into these silos, you're going to be in tunnel vision. It's going to be hard for you to think outside the box, to be creative. So for you, it is, in the work that we do, people only really care about the results, about what you actually produce. So for you, is you got to do what works well for you. Similar to like an athlete or an athlete that's training or running in these individual sports, you have to figure out what works best for you. Because if you're following somebody else's system or somebody else's mindset, you're only going to be able to get to where they are if you follow somebody else. But what works best for you is what you need to do the most. And I believe the most important quality of any entrepreneur or anybody is self-awareness, is to understanding. I use this quote a lot, is, we live in a world where everybody's telling us who and what to be. The hardest person to be is ourselves. When you realize who you are, you're going to realize, you know what? I don't have to take that opportunity. I don't got to go that route. I'm going to go the route that works best for me and only me.
Wow. Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a founder about this because, the pressure to scale is great out there, especially, if you're pitching to investors. There's this, again, a mantra that you're supposed to be at 10x and exit and all of these things. If that's what you want to do, again, global domination, self-awareness, you're cut out for that, great. But AK is here to help you also say, yes, I can probably grow my business to a $10 million business and still have choices in my life, get the right team into place, put the right vision into place, give it the oxygen it needs, make sure, it has that proper launch to grow to that. But my gosh, nowadays you say, someone says, oh yeah, they're at 10 million. People are like, what?
Well, so you bring this big. And I think when you look at certain coasts, San Francisco, you look at Boston, you look at tech, they look at the Facebooks. Let me be honest. Startups business was the first thing that ever happened. People were exchanging goods. We've made it really sound sexy, but a Facebook is just the same as a business as a mom and pop shop or, some side consulting you want to do.
Right.
For me, I used to have that mindset. I did. But I must be honest, it's pretty nice to be able to work from my phone for the last 5 years and travel around the world. Right? My team is around the world. I wake up when I want to. I still wake up at 5:30, but
it's the athlete in you.
Yeah, but for me, it is at the end of the day, there's one thing that's not guaranteed, and that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for me, I realize it's not about the end goal. It's this journey, spending time with my little girl, spending time with Yasmin, my girlfriend, talking with my family. Being able, like I do MobileXA, I work for Google, I do speak, and I work in China. I do all of these different things, and all of them help my main things.
Yeah. Right.
My speaking helps my consulting. My consulting helps this. The fashion company helps me understand the e-commerce space.
Right.
That's why I find unbranded to be so important. I believe that we're only going to understand based on our own understanding of what we've experienced. So if you want to think and do something new, you have to step into something new and experiencing something new. I want you to take a day with me and just see what I do. Like, that life isn't as bad as I thought. To work from your phone and travel around the world if need be, and hang out, and I don't have that desire to build this big,
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar company. But I'll be honest with you, the more that I've stepped away from that, the easier it's actually coming to build that.
Absolutely. And you get a better sense of how all these parts and pieces come together. When I launched my .com business, I had been out in the world for a while, and I'd already lived and experienced and had other businesses. So I was able to look at the culture and go, not so much. And there's a way you can do this. Of course, my middle name is Delegate, right? Ande Carnegie Lyons, meaning, surround yourself with great people, cheer them on. You're doing wonderful. I love that. And go have coffee with someone.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's, other people just love to sit down and do that work and make it happen. But the self-awareness helps you also understand where the holes are in your business. Let's go back to the Coach AK 12-step program here with MobileXA. So, we've talked about the high impact tasks, the financial incentives, which is great to help your brain shift. What is 10 times vision planning?
Right. So people always say, well, when you do 10X, like, what do you, is that like a big claim? Like, no, it's not a big claim. What we want people to do is we want them to think outside themselves. And so I'll give you an example. We have an individual, her name is Amy. She's a writer. And if I were to ask her a question of like, so if you wanted to make, just say $50 extra this week, would you know what to do? She's like, yeah, I could call this person. I could do that. Or I can go on Craigslist if need be. But I said, if you were to multiply that by 10, or actually 15, right? If you had to make an additional $500 this week, what would you do? And you see her eyes open up and she starts to think differently. Now, when you add in that 10X, it actually changes the way that you think about the solutions. Meaning, if I want to be a speaker and I want to do paid speaking gigs, let's say I want to make $10,000 this month in speaking. Well, then I probably shouldn't be necessarily only volunteering or doing free gigs. I need to start looking at, hey, well, what is that person that's doing $20,000 a month doing? And what is their system? And then maybe I'll even charge 10, right? So it charges you to think about the solution differently when you pose a different question. So what we do is we actually have people think about the 15X, because we believe the 15X actually get to the 10X. And then we create the task list from there. Because most of us, when we're planning our lives, we think about, well, this is what I currently have, and how can I expand that? Rather than thinking, let me just remove the plate altogether, and if I had to rebuild it, what would I put in place instead? So what we usually do is say, how can we get you to think outside the box to actually help you create your box?
Love that, something fierce. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of change the questions, change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the questions and the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. And again, I'm not putting down anybody who has global domination in them. That is a lofty, worthy, incredible goal. We had Tia on the show, Lyons Williams recently, and wow, she is really going for that big, hairy, audacious idea. And she is ideally in alignment and qualified to do it. It's her life purpose. She kept running up against glass ceilings that she couldn't get past, and she knew she'd have to go out and do that. But when you're a solopreneur or your business is in a way that helps you feed your family, maybe feed future generations, through legacy, knowing what that is important, and also understanding that changes. I've been in real get up and grind and love every minute. I mean, a good 12-hour day, gosh, maybe 16 hours. I loved it. And then, life cycles happen. You can either go back to that or find new ways to be, but I always understand that you're evolving and finding that those sweet spots in the business where you can earn more money. What happens too is we get so locked into one particular revenue channel and stream that we leave out all these other opportunities. So by asking the question of that writer, she was able to get up and say, well, I don't need to get on Craigslist and sell something. I could do, this.
There's so many different options that came into the picture. And even with that same client, and there's so many different ways that we're leaving so much money in our task list.
Yeah.
One of those is obviously by, we'll say, procrastination. And procrastination can come in ways of over planning, right? We're like, I'm not procrastinating. I'm busy. I'm doing work. But it's like, no, let me just write that, never email that. Let me make sure this is so perfect. When in reality, you're just saying, I'm just fearful of putting myself out there, right? And so when she was more productive, she was actually wanted to complete, she had 2 manuscripts she was working on, and it was taking her roughly 16 months. When we got her into the beta group within MobileXA, she was able to get those 2 manuscripts done in 3 weeks, meaning she was also able to charge her clients that much earlier.
Oh boy.
Right? So because of all of these factors, it's also caused her to take more action, myself included. Right? So that's one way of finding more money in your task list. Another one might be there's some people that just aren't reaching out to people. Like, just send this proposal, just follow up with that sales call. But when you put the time deadline in place, excuses go out the window. They have to get that done by 11:59 each and every single day. And we're not telling them, and the most important part is, we're not telling them what they need to do. We're just saying, here's what you say you're going to do in the morning. And by the end of today, we're just going to follow up with you. Right? That's all we're doing.
Well, I also think they lose $5.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, I can tell you, having a live show and saying you're going to show up on that live show really adds that time commitment, so that you do it. Really, it frames up a day. At least for me, it does. And then, of course, the deliverables that you were talking about. Anybody in the comment section, anybody who's watching this on replay, be honest with us. Be honest with yourself. Where do you see yourself falling down, where you could use somebody to help you go, okay, yeah, I spent way too much time on that task. And you know better. I mean, at a certain age, you've heard so much. And if you're just anywhere on social media, you can hear or see these memes all the time talking about it. But, integrity is your ability to meet your promises. Mm-hmm. And wow, when you get out of integrity with yourself and then with your business, you're going to create more challenges, right, Coach?
100%. And it will come at the moment in your darkest hour when you realize, like, I just need to ask for help. But it is when you're sitting there, like, I can't ask for help, because we talk to so many entrepreneurs that says, I can't, like, I just want to quit, or I wish I had a 9-to-5 job, or, I'm putting so much stuff out there, but I don't feel like I'm getting the traction that I want. But we keep these inside because it's like, hey, entrepreneurship, it's easy, it's fun, it's sexy. But in those quiet hours, that's where the truth really comes in. And I realized for us, one of the biggest fallacies that I think hurts a lot of people is to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, nah, I'm not a believer of that at all, because I believe that it's going to be the community and the networks that you have that are really going to help you get to where you really need to be.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, and to touch on this, like, I used to be the one that used to do everything themselves. This month, we were able to create 2 years of content in 2 weeks, right? 2 years of content in 2 weeks. And in that meantime, somebody says, hey, AK, you know what? We need a little more motivation. And I actually started a daily podcast that we're 26 days in. So for us, you're talking about an individual that wasn't as productive. And I was a former professional athlete. And I had to come to a realization with myself to realize, you know what? It's not about productivity. It's just having integrity with myself to say, I do want to do this, because what was happening with a lot of people, they begin to rationalize and say, you know what? I didn't want this anyway. When in reality, all it takes, the biggest motivator is productivity. So when we got the printout of all the tasks that I did this past month, I finished 102 tasks, high impact tasks this month. That also included shooting videos for Google, also helping do some work in China, started a podcast, and also hung out with my friends and family, and also just came back from a vacation last week. That's
right. You had a nice time camping in a long time. So it kind of scares me, AK, when you're talking about, you did 102 tasks. I came from a family environment where your self-worth was tied into what did you, quote, accomplish that day. Sometimes what we're creating requires downtime for thinking, downtime for thought. It's not like, oh, I got that done, I got that done, I got that done, I got that done. That can actually end up overwhelming somebody. So what happened with you is that you put the tasks in such a way that you weren't feeling like you were working off a to-do list, you were working off a to-be list.
It's a to-do list. This is where I would also say forward planning is important. This is the most important. With entrepreneurship, we have so many tasks in our head.
Yeah.
So many. So the first thing that we do, we actually create this parking lot where we just want you to first get it out of your head. So you literally just have this thing where you just write each and every task, work-related, non-work related, whatever it needs to be, just to get it out of your head. And then we help you be 2 weeks ahead. And the reason why this is important is because each day has its own specific day. I only have 3 tasks today. I don't need to worry about the 4th because that's for Wednesday. So when I'm done with my tasks, I can relax because I know the tasks already are scheduled in my day where I don't have to stress about it. And you realize it comes a compound effect where as soon as it's swiped away, I don't see it anymore until the end of the month. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize I did all this. Some of them are also outsourced. I don't have to do all of them as well.
Right.
But it also helps you realize that once you put it down and you swipe it away, you no longer have to worry about it. That's our job to worry about it and keep track of it.
Wow. So much there, especially you're done with that day. And you know that you could have a day that looked like a nice wide open canvas, except for your 3 tasks. And then all sorts of stuff flies in. Exactly. So by knowing, well, I just have to get these 3 things done and I've got a complete day, in spite of a flurry of unanticipated activity that you weren't relying on, or maybe you weren't feeling well or something like that, then you still get that wonderful sense of feeling, right? That you contributed and you were moving your ball forward. So I can see how getting all of those tasks and understanding of what you need to do for your overall umbrella of a strategy booked out for a couple of weeks. Wow. I love that.
And we help you do that. And that's why I'm saying the stress and overwhelm, because we put it all into one day. I got all this kind of stuff. It's like, no. Not all of these are due at this time. Once you put it onto the calendar and it has a day, it literally removes the stress because it's already in a way been checked.
Right. And Diane says, love some of the suggestions on productivity. Diane, I think you and I can both agree productivity has had a bad rap. Productivity meaning I got 20 million things done in one day. No, productivity is understanding what needs to unfold over the next 30 days. And are you on track for that by getting those 3 peak performance critical tasks done on the day that you said that you're going to do it? What happens when somebody doesn't get it done? They pay the $5, but what else?
Well, our coaches help obviously inspire you with daily coaching and advice. We're not mean by any means, but we're guiding you, we're inspiring you, right? But we ask, so what was going on? Right? What was happening? We're basically that person in your corner every single day that needs that's checking up on you. Because as founders, especially if we have a team, sometimes we don't feel like having those conversations with our employees. It might be challenging to be that transparent. So as entrepreneurs ourselves, we understand what you're going through.
Absolutely.
And you talked about an important piece as well. In America, we think about productivity based on the hours of 9 to 5. Yeah. But I don't consider that productivity at all. I've been lucky to travel around the world and do this activity to help people identify the important factors in their lives. Mm-hmm. And most people's isn't what they do between the hours of 9 to 5, but it's actually those other 16 hours out of my day. So when I count my productivity, does that mean I spent time with my family? Does that mean that I meditated in the morning? Does that mean that I took recovery? This is what I mean by productivity, and not just what I do between the hours of 9 to 5 or whatever entrepreneur hours. That's on average 66 hours per week, but it is the productivity based on your lifestyle design. My lifestyle design may be completely different from somebody else, but my productivity for myself.
Absolutely. And Mohammed, this system is great, especially for early stage startup entrepreneurs, as they need a persistent focus on action and direction. Because that shiny object can have you going, whoop, because everybody has gone over to do that. And does it meet your plan that you have in place? And wow, the ability to check in with somebody. It's so important. I mean, this is why I coach first-time founders, because they should not be going on this journey alone. This is their first time. They don't know what's real, what's right, what's anything. And so to have somebody to give them a barometer check, oh no, don't worry about that. That's typical. Here's what we can put into place to help get you through that hump. Or here's a different way to look at that. Because you just do not have the experience as a founder, and nor can you go and take a class for this. There's only one way to learn how to be a founder, and that's to do it.
Exactly.
And again, it's how you do it for your customers and for your life. I want to go back to the 12-step here for a second and bring that back up again. The forward planning, which is wonderful, the daily coaching and inspiration, the holistic approach, so important. The expert advice and support, monthly progress reports. Talk a little bit about the monthly progress reports. I love that.
Well, for us, as we went through this process, the monthly progress report, as we know, the studies show that the biggest motivator is actually progress, when we feel like we're getting better. So at the end of the day, I remember I got my list of 102. It didn't feel like that because I got charged a few times. I'll be honest. Let's be real. But when I looked at that, it made me think about some things on my list. I'm like, I thought I did that like 2 or 3 months ago. But that was all this month. So it just keeps you motivated. And I would say the most important factor, because of the 11:59, it's now become a habit. An example might be when I first wanted to do my podcast. I wanted to do it like 2 years ago. Had a whole bunch of excuses why I didn't do it, until a friend just said, like the Nike slogan, just do it. And I started. And it was uncomfortable at the start, but now I actually get uncomfortable if I don't have it done before 8 a.m. So it's actually changing my brain, the way my brain is working, and actually changes my habits. And that's what I would feel in terms of the monthly progress reports. It's these small little micro decisions that we're changing each and every single day to become the person that we dream to be, because we're not telling you who to be. You're just stating in the morning who you want to be, and we're holding you accountable to that at night. Right.
And also, until you try something, you think that's who you want to be. Mm-hmm. So it's great to be able to have someone to chat about it with when you went and tried it and you didn't like it.
Exactly.
That is really good to know too. That's great information to know what does not work. And I understand that fear on those. I know I'm a smart, intelligent person. I self-directed most of my life. So I will have things that I know that need to get done. But at the same time, it's kind of scary. If you haven't done Facebook ads before, if you haven't done cold calling before, warm calling, whatever you want to call it, selling, marketing. If you haven't really done it before, or for this particular industry, or you're still trying to discover who your customers are and you're getting rejection, or you're hearing crickets, you are going to have that doubt that says, oh my gosh, how do I know if this is going to work? And sometimes you're so called to do what you're doing that you need to be able to make it through those times, the death valley of periods where you're not seeing evidence, but you are doing the tasks and you are showing up consistently. Mm-hmm. And maybe, having that third party person look at how you're showing up. Is that in alignment with who you are? Maybe you need to be doing another venue. Those are just such important questions that your friends are never going to ask. Well, maybe some of them will, but it just doesn't come from the same place as it does from a professional coach. Yes, AK?
I agree. And one of the tasks that we do, we have a list of high impact tasks, lower impact tasks, recovery, and we also have out of comfort zone tasks. Like, what is this goal that you want to do that's freaking you out? And we'll help you break it down and start moving forward. So we do have that in there that people can put that down and start taking action, because you start to realize once you do that the first time. I used to be afraid of public speaking. I still remember the day where I thought I had to read the script word for word. Now I don't even do that. But the first time I did that, I learned to get out of my own head and realize the person that's really holding me back the most isn't my competitors, isn't the outside, but oftentimes myself.
Yeah.
And that's what we help you do, is realize, be the person you truly want to be. And we just help you hold that accountable.
See, and this reminds me of an experience of my own, which is I did live streaming for about 3 years, 2013 to 2016, around there. And then, stopped doing it for a while. And I tried the public speaking. I don't get as juiced up about it as I do talking to the camera.
Yeah.
I get so excited to come here and chat with my guest or with an audience. It could be an audience of 1, it could be an audience of 100. It doesn't matter. The fact that I get to have this time with you and that you've graced me with the ability to come into your life this way, it feels much more natural to me than speaking in public. And I do a pretty good job speaking in public. I just don't like the way I feel when I'm done.
Mm.
Whereas when I'm done here,
speaker, though.
What?
In terms of, you have so much energy, and so okay, I'm surprised.
I know, but COVID, the pandemic forced me to go ahead and start doing live again, and I love it. Something fierce. I don't, maybe, just being around all the energy with folks in person. I don't know. It's just, this is really a lot of fun and a great way to add value for me and for my marketing. But that could change tomorrow. I could end up going to speak to a whole group of people and be, wow, that was great. But it's fun. Oh, thank you, Mia. Thank you. Yeah. Well, people remembered the business I had initially back in the day. That was a lot of fun. It was called Bring Back Desire. Yeah. How to help couples stay tuned in and turned on year after year after year after year. And that's a real problem in long-term relationships, but boy, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good laughs. Anyway, so wrapping up, how much are you charging? How did you figure out your business model for this? And how can folks get on board and participate in your wonderful new platform, MobileXA?
Yeah. So they can actually go online to MobileXA and sign up there, or they can actually just hit me up on LinkedIn if you're on listening on the show, because we are actually bringing on more beta users to test and actually provide feedback, because we always want to test while we're also launching. So if you want to, we can give you a special discount to get you into the beta group to get more information, get more services. But we have 5 levels.
Right.
One of them is just the accountability starter. That's just going to have you be able to use a platform. We have a deposit, and that's how it works. So you spend $250, and then there's a $250 deposit that gets deducted up and down for the bonus.
Love that. I love that business model, AK.
Yep. And then we also have all the way up to revenue generator. So it goes all the way to $250 to $1,000, and that revenue generator includes business coaching, includes executive assistant support, because we know sometimes you just get a little bit overwhelmed, mastermind groups, and then daily coaching, daily accountability.
That's okay, everyone. That's a very worthwhile and affordable investment in your business. Remember, not an expense, is an investment, because AK and his group at MobileXA are helping you show up for your business in a way that leaves you not feeling overwhelmed and feeling inadequate. It leaves you feeling like you've got it pulled together and you're confident in what you're doing. I love that, AK. So I'm going to have everything in the show notes, everybody, so you can easily click on the links. I'm going to pop the links here into the comment section so you can grab them there as well, and how to stay in touch with AK. AK, I'm so thrilled you joined me. I mean, we really, you've already shared so many of the questions I normally ask, with founders and how, they get through the day. You have been very candid and very revealing and on how you have managed to get to this point. And now you have this wonderful new product that helps other founders, especially you first-time founders, step up and be all that you can be as a founder. So viewers who tuned in live, you know how grateful I am that you showed up and shared your deliciousness. The gift of your presence in the comment threads is always so wonderful. And those who are watching the replay, heartfelt thanks you tuned in. I'd love to hear what nuggets did you grab from Coach AK's incredible advice during this episode of Wise Up Wednesday. And what other topics would you like to learn more about to make your startup journey easier? Cash flow, talent acquisition, pitch decks, marketing? Let me know. And if you have a favorite expert you'd like me to interview or a founder you'd like me to celebrate on Fab Founder Friday, please send me their names, Ande at Ande Lyons, or you can shoot me in the comment thread some ideas that you'd like to do. And for those of you who are watching the replay and you've made it this far, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Please click on the subscribe button and the little bell icon so that you'll be alerted every time I post a new show. And for those of you who are raising capital, you're going to get asked some really tough questions. And it's a red flag when you don't know the answers. And I have a phenomenal download here of questions investors frequently ask. And I include the answers in there so that you can feel prepared and confident when you pitch to investors. So grab the link, and you can see it right there on the screen, or I'll have it in the show notes, bit.ly/Ande investor Q&A. These questions, it's a long list. And more importantly, I provide questions for you, dear founder, to ask the investor. And that's really important when you're raising capital, that you get the right investors in. Just, clean and green is not enough. You really want to have investors who get who you are, what you're doing, the vision, and add value to that as well. So be sure to download those questions and get going and get prepared. We have a phenomenal person coming in next on Wise Up Wednesday. We're going to go into the numbers, everybody. Brad Ebenho from Accountfully, he's going to join us to walk and talk through the numbers, because you've got to embrace numbers as a founder, specifically cash flow projections. So whatever questions you have, or if you're facing procrastination around numbers because you're like, I don't have a head for numbers, you do. You're a founder. It might be new, but you're going to do that. So mark your calendars for August 12th at 1 p.m. And then this Friday, oh my gosh, let me show you who's coming on for Fab Founder Friday. It's Maria Luna. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite female. I have so many favorite female founders out there, but we are celebrating this extraordinary fintech Latina female founder. I first saw Maria on Shark Tank several years ago, one of the most impressive female founder presentations I've ever seen. And no sooner did I say that, but Lori came out and said the same thing. And I've been a fan of Maria's ever since. And you'll hear amazing startup stories from Maria. So be sure to tune in this Friday at 1 p.m. to hear her stories. And it'll definitely up your founder game. And be sure to join my meetup group, Startup Life Live. It's bit.ly/Startup Life, all caps live, to be alerted whenever I'm having another show. So this way you can see the topic, read the show notes, etc. Oh my gosh, I don't know about you. Hey, hi, Mike Hantley. Good to see you. Yes, she is. She is. And Mike, unbelievable. I forgot to say hi to William Rock. I haven't seen William in years. Hey, William, so good to see you. Oh my gosh. AK, we used to all know each other from Google Hangouts. So there's a whole slew of us that were just supporting each other and helping each other as live stream hosts. So, there's some fun fave folks that swing by. That's great. And there she is, holistic productivity. That could be a topic all by itself. You're right, Yasmin. Absolutely. And to you, I love seeing you on Instagram, and you are a remarkable woman. And so thrilled you tuned in and watched your Coach AK shine. I'm going to have the easiest time doing the post-promo snippets with all the incredible comments that you shared today. AK, any last thoughts for folks?
Yeah, I would say, for everybody, no matter where you are, especially in this COVID situation, is to really, like I said over and over again, make sure you make your own lifestyle design that works for you. Because that's really at the dead of night when nobody is there. If you don't have peace and comfortable with yourself, it's going to be really hard to serve the world. So the more you take care of yourself, the better your company, the better the relationships you have around you will also be better, because you don't want to get to your goal and realize that's not really the goal that you wanted in the first place.
Oh, words of wisdom for Wednesday. Hashtag Wednesday wisdom. That was wonderful. Yay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember, stay strong, stay focused, and you've got this, especially when you've got a good coach, making sure you're staying productive and not procrastinating. See you on the other side, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Take care. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, AK. Thank you so much.